Hi guys, welcome to Bombshells and Blueshells, the podcast spin-off of the website bombshellsandblueshells.com. I'm Alex.
And I'm Alex.
And this is our first Grimmfest episode. So, not quite sure yet, depends how long we yammer on for. It could be 2 Grimmfest episodes, could be 3. We saw 11 films in total, so it's a lot to get through.
Plenty of stuff to cover.
Yeah. So Grimmfest itself, I think this was its 11th year, and it's a northern horror festival. Well, mostly it focuses on the cinema. I've not been to any others, so I couldn't comment, but it's not like Fright Fest. You wouldn't go for the necessarily for events and vendors and chats and things like that. It's just about the films, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, they do interviews with the directors of films, some of the actors in films.
Yeah, you get the Q&As
so
and things.
Q&As. But having not been to a Fright Fest either in London or Glasgow, it's difficult to say what's comparable to it.
The few I've heard about from other podcasts, especially kind of American ones and things, they have like panels and discussions, whereas this is basically all geeky horror fans. We get one screen in the Odeon cinema, and it's ours from Thursday to Sunday, and we just get to kind of take it over and things like that. There's a few cool vendors, so they do have a few stalls and things in the downstairs lobby. We ended up with a few different things, a Halloween and an ode to VHS print, which are really, really cool.
Oh yeah, we did.
Yeah,
from Alley Cat Designs.
Alley Cat Designs, yeah. We've bought a couple of things from her before. We got a really cool It poster from her.
Yeah.
We got a Grimmfest t-shirt and a couple of DVDs. So there's vendors there. There's some cool stuff there. It's just obviously getting that 10 minutes in between screenings to look at it every now and then. It's like, no, I need this 10 minutes to, pee and eat and top up.
Yeah. Recover.
Yeah, lots of recovering.
Recovery after long days in the cinema.
Oh God, yeah. It's beautiful and I love it and I could live in a cinema, but it is quite intense and tiring, which was surprising. And then their sponsor bar, which is just across the way, which was the Lion's Den. So obviously, after any good film, you've got to go and have a quick pint and chat to everyone else about what they thought about it. So it was fun to go across there and just have a bit of a wind down for half an hour in between the films and things like that.
Yeah, and your beer drink is subsidised as well if you're a weekend pass holder, so 20% off. It was certainly well worth it. A bit of a change to the normal Manchester pricing scene.
Yeah. Could live with those prices a lot more.
Oh, definitely.
But this is going to be a slightly different kind of episode because it is Grimmfest. There's a lot of different premiere sort of things, so it's just going to be overviews and a bit of our thoughts on it and recommendations of the 11 films we saw over the long weekend. No spoilers because a lot of them haven't got release dates, but any release dates that we are aware of we'll let you guys know. So we're going to kind of dive in, no news, no previews and things like that, unless you want us to dissect the Horror Channel advert that we saw at least 10 times.
I'd be quite happy never to see that advert again.
It was fun the first few times trying to guess what every film was, and then it just got to the point where it's like, oh, just play the goddamn film.
Just get on with it.
But yeah, so we're going to take a quick intro break and we'll be coming back at you with the 2 films that we saw on Thursday. Welcome back. We're going to start off with Thursday night of Grimmfest. So Thursday night kicked off at 7 o'clock and this was our F-rated night. So the F rating, if anyone's not aware, is to do with female contribution. So if a film is F-rated, it's been either written and or directed by a woman. So there was a really nice mix of kind of F-rating films at Grimmfest, and they really do endorse it a lot, which is nice to see kind of the accepting and celebrating of women in a genre that even still now a lot of people presume is men only, when we know that's not true. There was quite a few F-rated films throughout, and again, always nice to see that. So our first film of the night was our F-rated film, Tales from the Lodge, and this was its northern premiere. So why don't you tell everyone what Tales from the Lodge is about?
Tales from the Lodge is a British film set present day. There's a group of university friends that have gathered to, I suppose, scatter the ashes, mourn the loss of a friend of theirs from 2 or 3 years earlier, and to basically get together and have a big celebration of his life. Along the way, there's a lot of human drama and some horrific twists and turns brought about by also being in the woods that is yet to be discovered. It's set roughly like Tales from the Crypt. It's got different storylines for each of the individual university pals. They kind of go off on a tangent, and you see these storylines played out in front of your eyes.
Yeah,
it's very, very well put together, very funny, reminiscent of kind of Jonathan Creek and things like that, where they've got some narration over the top of the events and even fourth wall breaking to make it quite funny.
Yeah,
as well in parts.
The first little story we're given was quite funny with the narrator, and the guy's narrating the story and he's pausing, and the actor who's acting out the story is like just stood waiting. He's like, I'm building tension. So they're actually reacting to the narration from the characters, which I thought was a unique comedy spin on it.
Yeah, and it just had a great effect on the audience. I think from setting out on Thursday evening as an opening film for the weekend, it just had everything right, didn't it?
Set a real tone of welcome to Grimmfest. Here's some horror mixed with your comedy, and just a stellar kind of British cast really showcasing British horror, which doesn't always, a lot of horror directors, even if they are British and things, they kind of get enticed over the pond to America, whereas this was pure homegrown British.
Absolutely. This movie was launched by Kelly Wenham, one of the actresses in the film, and Johnny Vegas as well.
Mr. Vegas.
Yeah, it was an interesting introduction to the film. I'm still not quite sure what it was all about or what was even said at parts during that introduction, but nonetheless it was entertaining.
Yeah. For one man who can seem so nice and yet so threatening at the same time in his drunken bolshness. But it was nice that he was there and to have those kind of cast members there to introduce it and things.
Yeah.
So, we've kind of given a brief rundown of the film. Its F rating comes from Abigail Blackmore, who is the director. She's done 2 short films prior. I had a little look up of them. She was writer and producer on Blind Date and writer, producer, director on Vintage Blood. And they both look kind of good. I feel like we might have to find them somewhere. She could be a name to keep in the bag sort of thing. So beyond that, though, as well, like we were saying, the cast is super, super strong. You've got Mackenzie Crook, Dustin Denry Burns, Laura Fraser, who the entire time I was looking at going, I know you.
What is she from?
What are you from? And she's in A Knight's Tale. She's the female blacksmith.
Yes.
And I adore her. And then Sophie Thompson, who is Emma, Johnny Vegas's wife in this. And she honestly, her little vignette story is probably the most terrifying, whilst not actually being a horror story.
I still think she's the best actor in this.
Oh, she's amazing. She's so funny in it. And again, it's that kind of awkwardly dry, but at the same time just intense British humour that they bring to it. And surprisingly, because there was quite a few sort of comedy horror based ones and things like that, and I do think they work so well together. But with this one, because I was so disarmed by the comedy, they did throw in a few jump scares that actually got me. Like, there was a few moments where I laughed afterwards, but I was a little bit ashamed that the comedy film was the one that made me jump. It was very, very funny, very much group of friends with some internal issues, these little Tales from the Crypt style stories that they tell, ranging from, you know, almost urban legends in a car crash to zombie apocalypse survival that just kind of litter through it. All lead into this bigger story around it that I'm not even going to touch upon, not even going to wink at, because it would just spoil it to know anything. But the storyline itself is so well handled in a lot of ways, considering that it could have gone very badly, I believe.
Yeah, definitely. It was folded and manipulated quite well into the overall storyline. It didn't need telegraphy. No, didn't need a big old signpost for it.
No. So yeah, absolutely adored this one. I thought it was really, really funny while still keeping that horror kind of, you know, group of friends go to a cabin in the woods, but what if it's not a group of American high schoolers? What if it's a group of middle-aged parents who were university friends years ago? So I like that twist on it. As part of Grimmfest, they have the Audience Award, and I don't think that's been announced still yet. I've still not seen anything. They're really tallying them votes up.
Yeah.
We might have to have a little look. We could be coming back to this by the end of the episode. But we'll have a nosy.
Something in the back of my mind is telling me that when I was having a few beers the other day, I may have seen something get announced.
Okay. So we'll have a look up of that, because we should definitely tell you who won the Audience Award, but we'll tell you once we've told you all of our films. But to do the Audience Award, you're given a slip of paper as you walk in, and at the end of it, you just rip which number you kind of go with. So it's 1 to 5, basic rating system. So for this, Tales from the Lodge got a solid 5 from me. How about you?
I think I gave it a 5. This was a brilliant film. Really enjoyed it. In fact, one of the best of the festival, I thought.
Yeah, definitely.
Started strong. Looking back at it, yeah, it was definitely there. It started off and set the tone so perfectly for the rest of the weekend.
So this one is one of the ones that I could find release information about. It's out in selected cinemas on the 1st of November, so have a look around, see if it's coming anywhere near you. But it will also be out on DVD and VOD on the 4th of November, so I'm pretty sure that's going to be like your Amazon and things like that. So worth a buy, a rent, whatever. It's absolutely, you know, really, really fun, entertaining, kind of ridiculous British horror comedy. So that was our first film of the night. So our second film of that night was at 9:20, and this was She Never Died, which was its European premiere, so we felt quite privileged with this one.
Yeah.
Basically, this one is kind of a sequel, a gender switch sequel to the original film He Never Died.
With Henry Rollins.
With Henry Rollins, yes. Which I now have on our list on Netflix, because after watching this one, I'm like, okay, I'll do it in the reverse order. I'll watch the lady one and then watch the boy one. That's fine.
It feels like you might not need to actually know what was going on in either of the films to get the other film.
I don't think they're linked in that kind of way. I think it almost is. It's sequel-esque whilst almost kind of maybe being a bit of a reboot. From a female perspective.
I certainly think that the reboot label seems more applicable
than the sequel.
Than the sequel.
Yeah. So this is a Canadian-English co-production sort of thing. So I think it was set in Canada. And again, it follows what I think is a very similar kind of story to He Never Died. So Lacey is this kind of cursed loner. She's immortal, and she's become a bit of a vigilante of this neighbourhood after this ring of sex traffickers. They're kind of, they're a real stellar combination of sex traffickers and torture video creators.
Yeah, I'd go with that.
Real stand-up guys here and girls. They're of both genders. And through her kind of
equal opportunity,
equal opportunity knobheadism. But yeah, through her kind of vigilanteism, she ends up almost working with a detective, Godfrey, and saving a young girl, Susie, who becomes almost like her sidekick as they go on this vendetta against the people who create these kind of videos and things like that.
Yeah, if you say so. I mean, this was after a particularly long week at work and also a very long day. Unfortunately, I was unable to...
He fell asleep! Get to point! Fell asleep!
I was unable to keep my eyes open any longer than my body would allow me to. I can't fight it.
No, you can't.
Unfortunately, I remember some elements of the violent scenes, and then...
Oh yeah, you came back round for like the fighting and stuff. The action woke you back up, but all the storyline was just missed by him. So
I woke up to laughter of the surrounding people laughing at my snoring.
Yes. So a full theme of Grimmfest is me poking the snoring bear. It's all good until... in horror, they like to build the creep and suspense. So every now and then, the score gets real low and real quiet. And you just hear... from this guy.
I don't even snore. I've never heard it.
Mm-hmm. I have at least 10 people in the vicinity of me at Grimmfest that highly disagree. So I'm going to take a bit more of a lead on this one because I actually watched it. But this is, again, another F-rated film. It was directed by Audrey Cummings. This was her third feature film. Again, I've not seen Darkened or Tormented, but they both looked really good. So I'm just going to start adding these ladies to our list of things to watch and things to kind of go on. We will also watch He Never Died. I think now, having watched this story, it's a little slow at points, but I think it's got to be to offset how insane the violence around that is. If it went any further, you'd be looking into your realms of like just torture porn-esque sort of thing. Like it would just go a little bit too deep dive into the gross out.
Yeah, and I don't think that's necessarily what they're going for.
No, not at all.
I think at one point there was some finger eating.
She does eat a finger.
Yeah, I remember that bit, and I think if you continue on that path, you get into hostile territory, and it's not really where it was going, part of the storyline at all.
And I think they did good. They did well. Fun. Yeah, but that's what I mean. They did well to swerve that and move it instead into this almost kind of neo-noir-esque sort of pulp film with a female protagonist playing that stoic, silent kind of vigilante, working alongside a male detective and things like that. So it gave us some of those old tropes, but in a gender switch sort of way. Our female was this strong, silent type.
I can't remember the outset of what her motivation was, but it felt, well, certainly for the bits that I was awake, like almost the structure of a rape revenge type film, and yes. I don't know what her motivation was because I can't remember.
Well, I think she was aware of what was going on, and she'd seen people being taken in there and never coming out. So this little bunker room where they took people for the videos and things, because she lives on the streets and has like a bit of a homeless network who keep an eye out for the man with the rings. But I think that's also part of it, is she feels so...
So she doesn't have like a personal journey then? Personal
not in that way.
Against this person?
No, but that's... So it's not quite rape revenges in that, because I don't think she's got any personal attachment. But I think that is used because of this immortality side. It's as if she's always been there watching over this place. You know, she's been around for years. So it kind of throws us in as this guardian angel role of this city, and this is just what she does. She has to feed to keep going, so why not feed on the vilest of humanity?
Yeah.
Instead of, you know, eating the good people.
Well, that makes sense. I just thought, you know, having not understood what entirely she was, because was probably asleep at the time when this was revealed.
The film doesn't quite explain that, though. Again, no. I think that's like He Never Died. There's some, again, not going into spoilers, but there's some things that I got from it that maybe other people wouldn't. So I saw it in a certain way. There's some stuff at the end that I think does clarify certain things, but could still be read in different ways.
Right.
But there is a kind of noir combined with biblical.
Yeah, I can see the biblical aspect of it, certainly.
That kind of guardian angel sort of thing, but...
It certainly felt like she was looking out for the younger girl character. Susie.
Yeah. But also kind of not your typical angel, because, as we said, she does eat some fingers and stuff, so you're kind of wondering, you know, I don't remember that from from the minor amount of RE that was made to do at GCSEs. Yeah. Again, really like the visuals, and that kind of modern pulp noir story are really intriguing, but there are a few lulls, a few slow points and things like that, but I really enjoyed myself with it. So my audience rating was a solid 4.
And mine was a 3.
A sleepy 3.
A sleepy, snory 3.
Which, like I say, it's still... No film at the festival was bad, and a 3 is still a solid score of just... When you're looking at things like Tales from the Lodge getting a 5, you don't necessarily want to be throwing out high scores to everything, you know. It can be a bit cruel, because sometimes the directors stood there and they're so lovely and sweet, and you're there tearing a 3 into the paper going, I'm so sorry, I really did like your film.
Yeah, I think you suffered more from that than I did. Yeah. I think there was certainly some reconsideration of votes after the director or the actors had left, and you'd handed that piece of paper in. I personally didn't struggle too much with that. I just
went with your gut.
Just went with my gut.
So that one got a 4 from me and a 3 from Alex. Unfortunately, there's no release date as of yet that I could find. I think it's still doing the festival circuit. So at the moment, I don't think it's got anything in the works. So hopefully do a few more festivals, maybe towards the end of this year. We might hear some more news about it.
I think the fact that He Never Died has now got a VOD release on Netflix, which was a few weeks back.
Yeah, it only came out a couple of weeks ago on Netflix, didn't it? So I'm assuming the two are linked.
Yeah, you'd think it'd be a strong indicator that the sequel slash reboot slash gender swap...
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, would be there.
So... that was our Friday. There was one more film, and I was quite excited to see it, called Satanic Panic. Again, another F-rated film. Kind of pizza delivery girl gets involved in accidentally gets involved in a ritualistic cult killing or something along those lines. Unfortunately, as we have mentioned, Snorri McSnorrison over here was already passing out, and I was about to join him, and I'm not too ashamed to admit that I know I also snore, and that's embarrassing. So neither of us would have been available to wake the other one up, and we would have just ruined the screening for everyone else. Plus we both had work the next day. Unfortunately we couldn't get that time booked off around it, so...
No, it was we were very jealous of a lot of people that we were talking to at the Lion's Den during the various breaks that we had, who had booked the weekend off and booked hotels in Manchester City Centre as well, to account for the fact that it was going to be an extremely long weekend.
Yeah, we just did a few 11 o'clock drive homes and getting up at 6:30, 7 in the morning next day to go to work and then do it all again. So
next year we'll plan better.
Next year, this every year, hotel. We're saving up. Next year, this is our holiday. Sod the holiday. This is it. So we're going to take a quick break and then we'll move into Friday's fun. Welcome back, guys. So we're going to move into our Friday at Grimmfest. Again, we missed it the morning kind of due to work and things, so our day started around 4 p.m. The biggest kind of shame about that was the first shorts programme, which happened at 12:30 that day. And all of the shorts there were F-rated, and I was really excited to see a lot of them. So I'm going to have to search and scour to find some of them, especially the lost films of Bloody Nora, which looked like a really stylised kind of...
That's the one with the guy from Friday Night Dinner in?
Yes, that's the one with the guy from Friday Night Dinners with Jim. And it's about kind of Nora finding this old camera and embodying these strange characters that were captured on film. So it's almost, for a horror film fan and a cinephile, it just sounded perfect. But
anything with his weird sense of
but what if we
sensibilities.
What if we watched it and he's normal in it? Would that not freak you the hell out?
I think it would be more scary than any horror film.
Just Jim being normal. So I'm sad that we missed that, but unfortunately, we need to survive and live, so we've got to have those job things that people talk about.
Yeah, I mean,
we're trying.
It's not just Jim from Friday Night Dinner. He's whichever doctor it is in the Green Wing as well, and
yes,
he plays
just
as awkward and confusing in that TV show. I had a big search, but I couldn't find it. So we'll see when that comes out. I'll keep an eye out for those F-rated short horrors. So we started our day at 4:40. So it was finish work and race the hell over there. And we started it off with A Serial Killer's Guide to Life. This was their northern premiere. I do believe they were at Fright Fest in London prior to this. They certainly were, because I listened to a podcast from the Super Horror Brothers the other day, and they reviewed A Serial Killer's Guide to Life.
Yes, they did. So they had seen it as well. So it played out in the south, but not in the north. Just before, so I'm going to get you to synopsize it for us, but just before we do, this was screened with a 3-minute short by Thomas Nelstrop at the beginning called The Cabinet. What did you think of The Cabinet?
Well, if I could have given that the award for audience award, I would have done.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's a shame you couldn't really vote for the shorts from an audience participation perspective anyway, but this was... Just hilariously stupid.
3
minutes long. 3 minutes long, and just set the tone for the rest of the afternoon. I mean, we didn't see the earlier films of Every Time I Die and
the shorts and things.
Shorts, and Quiet Comes the Dawn. But I imagine The Cabinet was like a nice little amuse-bouche for the afternoon.
It's a palate cleanser for the rest of the festival.
It really was brilliant.
Yeah, 3 minutes. It just shows how great horror can be in a short capacity, like just that short, snappy, getting to the point. And it's what would happen if you purchased a haunted cabinet? And it sounds so ridiculous, but it was just perfectly acted, perfectly done, and so funny. Like, that is a smart, concise 3 minutes, and I really, really enjoyed it.
There's no finer description of any film other than to say that it is it's the cinema equivalent of a lemon sorbet.
Coming from a man who loves him some lemon sorbet, so
lemon sorbet.
it's a high praise. So why don't you tell everyone what Serial Killer's Guide to Life is all about?
Serial Killer's Guide to Life. It's about a lady, Val, no, the other one.
Lou.
Yep. Serial Killer's Guide to Life is about Lou, who effectively wants to help herself with self-help books throughout her, I suppose, moderated lifestyle, moderated by a mother. Very strict and controlling mother figure in her life. And wants to kind of get out of that environment and believes that the self-help, kind of typical 80s and 90s self-help, almost pyramid scheme-esque, kind of greasy salesman.
You should be like me to feel better about yourself, but also be you, because there's only one me.
Exactly. Yeah. Absolute nonsense. Pyramid schemes built to amass funds for the person at the top of that scheme. But in essence, she meets a lady called Val at one of these self-help groups, who is a very strong kind of female persona. That's not the right word, but she's got a very, very strong female attitude towards business and life, and she takes Lou on effectively as her assistant, and to try and develop her own skills really throughout the film. It transpires that Val is actually a serial killer, and that's where, really, without getting into spoilers, we'll leave the kind of description, really, because she will ultimately see Lou develop into something that she never thought she would be.
Her protege.
Yeah,
saying that Val's a serial killer is definitely not spoilerific, because it happened, like, we're kind of hinted towards it right from the beginning, and the film is called A Serial Killer's Guide to Life, so you kind of knew it was coming. So Lou is very much, she's beaten down, she's got that kind of, her mum, it just reminded me of like Carrie, like a mum that is just so manipulative and cruel to her daughter, that you almost wonder, like, it was such an exaggeration that I'm like, right, either they're going with that or there's something else to that, that's how Lou's seeing it more than what her mum's actually doing. But yeah, it was quite over the top, controlling mother character and things.
Yeah, absolutely. She effectively was guilting Lou into never leaving the family household,
into living a mediocre life in her own kind of terms, isn't it? Like, not achieving the things she wants to, and not having anyone else, really. She doesn't seem to have friends or a partner or anything going on apart from going home to her mum every night.
Yeah, one thing I wasn't sure about was how what Lou's not motivation, what Lou's background was, because it became clearer through the film that she wasn't that intelligent.
She's very gullible.
Yeah, and was that maybe a lack of structure from her side of things, or or oppression from a mother?
I think that's where the Carrie thing goes even further for me. It's a weird, but that was what stuck in my head, was this idea of she maybe has been so sheltered, because even the way, so it's Katie Braben plays her. I'm not seeing her in anything else, but she has this childish voice, this very, like innocent.
That's a really good impression, actually.
Thanks. Innocent voice, which reminds me of like the characters like Carrie, their life has been so dominated by a parent, they've not been allowed that outside influence. So of course Carrie freaks out when she gets her period, because no one ever told her that was going to happen. So it's as if Lou has gone through life not being told about the world, not being shown the world, like, you can't play out with the other children, it's dangerous, sort of thing. So talking about it, I'm almost recrediting it after not crediting it.
I don't know. I think because we could probably get into spoilers the way we're talking about it at the moment. I think the point of this is reviewing where we're at with it. Having now seen it and kind of taken it on board, we've slept on it, and since then we may have reviewed our scores. Changes. I don't think I have. But I think you might be coming round to maybe increasing where you were with it at the time.
I don't know though, because this is the thing. The characters were really well done. Lou was well played out in that way, if not a little bit cliched. Again, with like the proper evil stepmother Disney mum and things like that. And
I mean, it could effectively have been Disney mum and a witch.
Yeah. Done.
I mean, it's effect. It is the storyline.
and then her fairy godmother just happens to be a sociopath. And I do think Val as a character was interesting and things like that. Like just this complete opposite. She knew who she wanted to be. She was strong. She wanted to be the best self-help coach around. And her first task was to take someone who is so meandering like Lou and transform her. That's going to be her big project and things. I think my issue was it could have been a really great short film.
Yeah.
40 minutes. Perfect.
An hour and 22. It just felt laboured. It felt very repetitive in parts. And I don't think this is a popular opinion. I've heard a lot of people say, this is a fantastic film. It wasn't for me.
No. I don't think it hit. I think sometimes it depends what else you've seen and things, because there's another film that does some similar tropes to this. So this one is kind of, the story is moved along by these different points. So like this big self-help guy, Chuck Noah, is the main big self-help guy that they all love, and it kind of intersperses the narrative with him being like, guide to success number 2, guide to success number 3, and we saw a film later on in the festival that did that trope a whole heap better. And obviously before this one, the day before, we'd seen another horror comedy, Tales from the Lodge, that I think just had more pace and more actual horror to it.
Yeah, you could almost say this wasn't really a horror. I mean, save for a few beatings or stabbings, there wasn't really a horror.
Suspense.
Yeah, there wasn't any suspense. I mean, you could argue there was no gore, there was no suspense. There was no.
Sorry.
Drinking your drink, don't worry. Spit.
Keep going. It was fascinating.
But there wasn't really any aspects of horror in there, or suspense, as you say, that really made it anything but it. Probably on the psychological scale, I would say, a little bit. But even so, it just felt that Val was just taking advantage of somebody that wasn't very intelligent.
Yeah, and I think and as the narrative goes on, again, to not go anywhere near spoilers, but there's a few kind of reveals of what's happening and what's been going on and things like that in their lives, in Val and Lou's lives, and they hit me as a little bit old hat, a little bit done, a little bit dusted sort of thing. And I think that kind of put me off even more, was just this kind of thing of such a really good concept and then kind of hindered down by an overused concept. It could have been more. It was as if kind of there was this short film and then someone went, shit, let's make it a feature length, and looked up horror narratives and went, we'll add that one in. It didn't need it.
It didn't need to be a horror. It was almost like a drama.
Yes. It could have been played
with another sticker stuck on the side of it.
And like a few others that we're going to discuss, it's almost like knowing its tone. Either be dark or be funny. When it's trying to, and some can really do both. You can be dark and funny at the same time, of course you can. But this was kind of flopping between the two instead of letting the two embrace each other. So I was a little bit on this. It's very well acted. The script was like fun at a lot of points. It was nice to see proper British countryside and things like that. Again, another kind of fully British film and things like that, but just wasn't doing much for me.
No, it didn't work out for me. So, ratings.
I believe I have a 3 written down here, but I think that was my retrospective view. And I think at the time I ripped a 4.
Okay, so it's gone down. It
went down after discussing it. Again, I think that guilt of this really excitable, lovely director being there. And I was like, oh, you're so sweet, 4. So I would put myself, if I could, at a 3.5. I think between what I put straight away after talking about it, what I put in the cinema when I watched it, and what I think now after discussing it, I'm landing somewhere between it. So I'm gonna add some decimals. I'm 3.5 in it.
Well, that's illegal.
But it's illegal. It's an illegal manoeuvre.
I'm a solid 3. I was a 3 when I ripped the piece of paper. I'm a 3 now. Yeah. If I was doing anything, it would probably go down to a 2. But oof. I don't think there's any need to be that harsh.
No.
Would I watch it again? Absolutely not. Was it a good watch the first time? It was okay. I didn't fall asleep.
That's because it was 4:40. I'd have been worried. Well, it has happened.
It has happened.
But yeah, I don't think it's not a bad film in any way. And I think if you like certain more drama-based elements and things like that, it probably will do well for you. And as I say, it's almost one of those things where there's like a guilt part of me going, but everyone else loved it. But that can't change my opinion. So for me, it was just a bit to start our second day with that after what we saw on our first day and things, it was just kind of a little bit like, okay, this is where we're going.
I'd have watched The Cabinet however many times 3 minutes went into the runtime of The Serial Killer's Guide to Life. And I would have loved it.
Just loop The Cabinet for 82 minutes.
Yeah, just as much the last time as I did the first.
So that was our first screening of the Friday. We followed on A Serial Killer's Guide to Life. After that was 7 o'clock was Darlin.
Pollyanna McIntosh.
Hells yeah.
Female director, another F-rated film.
This was another F-rated. This was its northern premiere. So it had played, I think, again, maybe Fright Fest. I assume it would have done. But yes, this was its coming to North premiere.
Maybe Glasgow. She's Scottish, isn't she?
Of course, that would make sense. So maybe the Glasgow one. I really should have looked up. But so as you said, this is Pollyanna McIntosh's directorial debut. Obviously, she's well known from The Walking Dead.
Bin Lady from Walking Dead.
Bin Lady. That's official character title. Bin Lady. But she's very cool in that. But she also, this is actually the third film in kind of a franchise, universe. Everything's a universe.
Everything's a universe now.
We discussed this last time with the Terminator universe. So she'd starred as the woman in Offspring, The Woman, and she's now starring again, reprising that role in Darlin. Is it me? Is it you? Do you want to run it through for me, love?
Yeah, I can do that. Darlin is a film about the daughter from the previous film, Woman. The Woman. Whereby Pollyanna McIntosh plays a feral character, lives in the woodlands, and effectively gets mistreated by a family that capture her. Later, transpires that she escapes and takes the daughter. with her, and that daughter is Darlin.
Yes.
Darlin is since grown up. She's probably mid to late teens, I would say, in this film, and is subsequently dropped immediately into the forefront of the into the forefront of the film by Pollyanna McIntosh, almost pushing her into a hospital environment.
Yes.
To go and get checked up and checked out. Having lived in the woods since she was maybe 6 years old, 5, 6 years old.
Yeah, I think she's about 5 or 6 in The Woman.
She doesn't have the ability to speak or interact with people, and that's where we're greeted with another former Walking Dead alumni, Cooper Andrews, who is hilarious. We've seen a panel with him.
He makes me so happy. He's just a beautiful man.
Yeah. And he proceeds to try and comfort Darlin and get her on side with a more approachable kind of demeanour.
Well, he's the nurse at the hospital that she's been taken to, and she's going to be transferred to a kind of
it's a Catholic school.
Yeah, well, Catholic boarding school for kind of orphans and children who don't have kind of parental figures and things like that. So it's like an orphanage with that kind of religious overtone. It's definitely called like Our Lady something. I don't know what, but it's Our Lady something. So he's her family figure in the best of ways, really, in that he's probably the most caring person she's had in her life in a long time, because the woman's helped her survive, but she's not exactly loving. She doesn't seem like the type to dole out hugs and kisses and read you a bedtime story.
No. There are other factors at play here. The Catholic school that she has been shipped off to is soon to be closing down, and the father, padre,
bishop, he's just called the bishop,
some religious person, he sees the fact that she is feral and the opportunity to develop her skills and make her human, in inverted commas, as an opportunity to secure funding to keep the place alive, to keep the building going, and to keep the college getting new people in. So ultimately feeding his lifestyle. And it's an interesting twist. I mean, it's one of those kind of storylines that is very deep seated in the kind of Catholic culture, I would say.
It's got its messages, and this idea of the bishop kind of looking at this young woman who does need help, but seeing her not as a person but as a project that can prove the power of God and keep the doors open and the lights on, thereby keeping him in power, because if he doesn't run that place, he does not have the same level of credence and power in the Catholic community and things. So there's definite selfish motivations to helping a young woman who has been brutalised in the forest for the past 10 years.
I mean, for me, it's a great film. I only saw The Woman maybe 2 weeks prior to this.
Yes, I made sure that you watched. Neither of us have seen Offspring, which I felt a little bit bad about, but I feel we didn't need it as much as I think you definitely needed to see The Woman.
I think the Woman is obviously sets up the vast majority of this film. I think it is a bit of an essential to understand really where this is coming from. It doesn't spoon feed you. It doesn't give you a previously on. It drops you straight into the assumption that you know who Darlin is and where she's come from and what the background of how she's got there is. So I think in that way it's good. You know, it's not assuming that the audience is stupid.
Yes, it's not flashing back and showing us everything. Like, what we see that happened in between the woman and Darlin in flashback form is crucial and wouldn't have been known by us anyway. It gives you the information from the woman without having to go back into actually what happened in the woman. And the way these films are named, so the woman was definitely, that was Pollyanna McIntosh's kind of, she was at the forefront of this film. It was about her as this feral woman and the awful, just stomach-churning, pure arsehole dad of that family and things like that. And his little psycho twin son. But this is, and aptly named Darlin, this is Darlin's story. The woman has her moments in it, and goddamn does she have some good moments in this. There's a scene in a car, and I could not stop laughing.
So funny. And this isn't even a horror comedy. I mean,
it just had that moment.
It was just so perfect.
It was like, tense. Here's a break. Tense.
I would pay money to see Pollyanna McIntosh do that on a regular basis. That was hilarious.
And the fact that it was a scene with Cooper Andrews as well, and you can just imagine like
they rehearsed that, I think, on the set of Walking Dead.
But I did really. It's funny. It was gory, and it had those messages that were definitely pointed and definitely on the nose and things like that, but also so out there and on the nose that it felt right. Like, if you're going to exaggerate a universe, just do it fully. So I don't think it took away from it having those messages and things, and I think it actually increased what it was about, because we stuck around for her Q&A at the end, and she was basically saying when she was approached to do this, it was that kind of idea of, so you've had offspring about the creation of the woman and this, like, the cannibalistic thing and stuff. You've had the woman, which was so isolated, and it was either have her be captured again, have her be in the forest again, or introduce her to the world. And she said the best way to introduce her to the world was through Darlin. And I think that was perfect. So, a little bit messy at points. There was like 5 storylines going on, and at certain things your head was whipping like a tennis match, like, what's going on?
I was thinking exactly the same thing, and how to say that. There was an awful lot going on at one point. But that said, difficult balance to get. Do I think it was perfect? No, I don't think it was perfect, but it was certainly a step above a few of the films that we have seen this weekend.
Well, like I say, going from a serial killer's guide to life, where I'm saying we could cut 40 minutes out of it, with this I'm like, oh god, add 20 minutes, I don't know, take a storyline out or make it into 2 films, and like, But I think that, especially when you are on such an extreme cinematic weekend of film after film after film, it kept me going. There was not a moment where a blink turned too long, or I was scared my head was going to drop, or anything like that. I wanted to know what was coming up. I really did think that this was a brilliant way to expand on that world and to feasibly make a follow-up to a film like The Woman. We'll get to ratings in a second, but first, just a little bit of just pure love. Pollyanna McIntosh. She was there on Thursday. Her film didn't screen till Friday. She stayed for Saturday. She was just kind of around. She was just throwing herself into the mix. That woman knows how to dress. There is something about, she is so very tall, and everything she wore, I was just like, how you pull this off? You look so good all the time. That was loud. But she was just a sweetheart. Everybody said it. Yeah.
I mean, we didn't actually directly speak to her.
No, because I'm not good with those things. More on that later.
Yeah. Not really a big fan of those kind of environments where it's a massive Walking Dead fan, however, mainly the novels, comics, however you want to describe it. And that particular character isn't in
no, so you've not got that approach of,
so I don't really have the there's something going on, or even take a comic book to get it signed, because it's kind of meaningless.
But it's more, I think.
But she definitely had a presence about her. Not in a negative way. She was very approachable, and a lot of people have had a lot of conversations with her that we were speaking to. Said she was absolutely fantastic, but maybe it's just a personal thing.
I think if it's a Q&A or if it's a signing and things like that, then that's what they're doing. For me, in my head, I just can't run up to someone and be like, "You're famous, selfie please." And I know I'm not slamming those that do, because I'm sure everyone's very lovely about it, and I'm sure these stars are used to it. But in my head, I would be wondering what they expected. So do you expect me to talk to you for 5 minutes, or can I just take the photo and slump away and smile in the corner like a weirdo, because I do not know what to say to you, famous person. Like, you are a person and you love. She was so lovely from what we heard, but in my head I'm just going, "You're in films, you're in films, you're in films."
Yeah.
So we didn't actually speak to her, but everything we heard about her, she was just a superstar and so gracious and so lovely. And I really hope that she does more directing. Like, I loved the visual style of this film. I thought it was really well done. To go from the grittiness of the woman to this more kind of almost comic book pop-esque, do you know what I mean? Like, in the colours and things like that.
But I think the fact that you're one of the lead actors, and certainly a lead supporting actor, if that is such a thing, and also director of a film, that must be such a difficult compromise.
It's a lot of balls in the air.
Yeah, a lot of balls in the air. And I think that film delivered on a lot of levels.
She nailed it.
So what are the scores on the doors?
Scores on the doors. Jesus Christ.
Riders on the storm.
So I solidly gave 5 out of 5. I love this.
What did I give? 4?
You gave a 4.
Would
you like to retrospectively change that?
No, I've given 1 5, 2 3s and a 4 so far.
I'm throwing out 5s.
I think it's
a 4. For 5s.
Well, clearly. Throwing out 5. Hopefully the next film didn't get a 5, but we'll wait and see.
5 and a 4 overall. This has been released in selected American cinemas already and is available on DVD and VOD already at this point. It is going to other European festivals after Grimmfest, so it'll be still going around and things like that, but you can already watch this, and my final line on it is do so. Watch it. So good. So what was next?
The next film was Blood Vessel, and this film started at 9:30 in the evening. As we all know, this was still effectively a weeknight after a long week at work.
He's already
Same
building
excuse
up his
as Thursday.
excuses.
Same excuse as Thursday. I did not last the entire way through this film, which was an hour and a half long, and also very, very dark.
Yes.
A lot of the settings were in very dull rooms, very dark rooms.
It was all set in one night.
Yeah, and set in one night. Unfortunately, that led me to Snoretown and a lot of poking. So I remember waking up 5 times. So
shall I take the lead on this one?
I think you should do the description, the synopsis.
So, 9:30 was the European premiere of Blood Vessel. This is Justin Dix, who is the director, quite well known in the makeup and effects and things like that world. He
famously the brother of Jacoby Shah.
What?
Jacoby Dick from Papa Roach. Jacoby Shaddix.
Oh, okay.
Keep that one in.
So yeah, he works for the Wicked of Oz company, which is kind of makeups and special effects and things like that. I'm not going to go into this one a whole heap because I think both of us were a little bit on it. You fell asleep, clearly. But it's basically set in late 1945. So we've got the kind of underpinning of
100% there was Nazis in this film, right?
World War II. Well, kind of. There's a group who are in a life raft adrift at sea and things like that. They've got no food, no shelter. they're running out of rations and all that. There's a mix of them. There's British, American, Russian, that kind of thing. So it's tense anyway. And then their saving grace appears, but their saving grace is a German minesweeper. So not great, but better than maybe dying out in the open ocean with no escape around you. So, well, they board this ship, and it doesn't take them long to realise that something's very wrong, as there doesn't seem to be anyone else aboard it. It kind of then leads into this more kind of traditional horror of creepy children, and so like almost like a cursed ship and things like that. I'm torn between what could be and what might not be a spoiler, so I'm not even going to go into what is behind all of it, because I think that is meant to be one of the big reveals.
Well, don't spoil it for me. I was asleep. So
you might watch it still.
I might still watch it again.
But that kind of, the big reveals and things like that. What they did tell me as far as why they chose to go down that kind of narrative route is that clearly this was helmed by an effects, like a visual... practical and makeups effect kind of company.
Yeah, and the practical effects rang true through the film. They were, almost kind of Face Off. We watch a lot of Face Off on
so that
it was that kind of level of practical effects.
Props that they'd made and the way that the corpses on the boat looked and things like that. It was really intriguing. But I think it suffered the same fate as a lot of these. So it's 95 minutes, so an hour 35. And it just kind of dragged. There was just a real slow pace to it. Characters that were built up so that you would care when something happened to them, I didn't. A few of them were just really annoying. It was, and again, I don't know, I kind of maybe had different expectations based around the whole kind of World War II aspect and things like that, but I guess I've been a little bit spoiled maybe with other films that I've loved that are based around that kind of thing. So Overlord and Dead Snow and things like that. I thought there was going to be...
Was it as good as Ghost Ship though?
Again, you keep really amping up Ghost Ship, and I think what you mean is the first 10 minutes of Ghost Ship and everything else is a bit shit. We need to rewatch Ghost Ship. No, and it doesn't even match up to other ship films. So
ship-related films.
Yeah, all those ship-related films that we watch.
Sub-genre, is it?
Yeah.
Ship-related horror.
Ship-related horror. Ghost Ship. Triangle.
I have never heard of Triangle. Are you just making up?
No, Triangle is a real thing.
Perfect Storm.
Perfect Storm.
It's also not a horror film.
You're not a horror film.
Rom-com.
It's a rom-com. It's just about a man and his love for a storm.
That's exactly right.
Oh God. So yeah, I can't really go much further into it without kind of getting into the crux of what happens. There's a creepy little girl on board who they have to help out and things and figure out where her family is and things like that. But it started to lose me. I did not fall asleep, but I could feel it was gonna...
I didn't even get to the creepy little girl.
So yeah, I feel like there's not a whole heap to be said about Blood Vessel, really. It's there. It's a film.
It exists.
It does exist. It's in both the World War II camp and the ship camp, but not high in those camps. But like I say, I don't want to dive bomb on some of these films too much. It is festival films, and it was still, it wasn't terrible. It just wasn't as good as some of the others, in my opinion. So it's not like it was, like some of the horror films that you can watch and just be like, I honestly feel like 2 hours of my life has been robbed.
Wish Upon.
Which you put on again today, like we didn't watch it and hate it before. Well, did you literally, was it so traumatic you forgot we'd already seen it?
I forgot.
Re-traumatised yourself.
Watched it again. Didn't remember what happened in it the first time. It was like watching it anew. It was just as bad.
The only good thing, what was it? Is it Ryan Phillippe?
Ryan Phillippe.
Yeah, just him like
playing saxophone.
Yeah, playing saxophone and just
playing some sweet baby making music.
Oh yeah, and it was doing it for Barb. Definitely doing it for Barb.
Barb.
Stranger Things.
Yeah, Barb from Stranger Things. Isn't it?
She's all about that saxophone.
Someone else in it that I recognise. This is not what we're talking about.
Go back. Sorry.
Blood Vessel.
So Blood Vessel, but this is
rating system.
That's maybe how this film can be. We can finish off is the fact that we got more excited about a different topic. I'm afraid. So yeah, for ratings, there was no real doubt for me on this one. This one got a 3.
It's also got a 3. I think 3 is pretty much the lowest rating we've given on the entire weekend.
Because like I say, none of these were awful.
It wasn't
it's
awful.
Not awful at all.
I just wouldn't watch it again.
No.
I would sign off with the statement, yeah, but is it as good as Ghost Ship?
You are obsessed.
It's a quality film.
But this is due for cinematic release in 2020, so it will be hitting screens and you can come up with your own opinion about it. Maybe you're a bit more into the old school effects and the kind of being stuck on a scary ship full of scary things, but just not for me.
It's a travesty that the cabinet on repeat...
A travesty?
The cabinet on repeat.
Dear good sir, do tell me of this travesty.
The cabinet on repeat 50 times is not getting released at the cinema, and that is.
Yeah, so we should have been in the alternate screening for Blood Vessel as well, where we once again just rewatched the cabinet another 50 times. Happily, joyfully. The takeaway from this episode is we love the cabinet.
Cabinet was a good film.
All about the cabinet.
It was only 3 minutes long.
Maybe that says more about us and our attention spans.
Wow, millennials.
Once again, due to sleepiness, we missed out on 4x4 as I was rudely put into work on Saturday morning. Not the usual happening, so was not impressed.
It was a tactical leaving of the cinema.
Yes.
The final film of the day at 11:30 at night was in fact a Spanish film with English subtitles. And whilst we are in no way saying we do not watch subtitled films, we watch an awful lot of subtitled
ones we watched last year were subtitled, but
unfortunately at 11:30 p.m. on a Friday
when
you've got to get up when you've got to get up and go to work the next day, unfortunately reading
it just did not appeal, did it? But I do want to check this one out. It's got so the last film of the night showing at 11:30 was 4x4, an Argentinian film, and it's such an interesting concept of kind of a guy who breaks into a 4x4 that's parked on the streets, thinking he's gonna get away with it and sell it and things, but it kind of turns into this lockdown bunker and he's trapped inside and someone's playing a bit of a game with him. And I do like the idea of that. It's kind of got that first Saw kind of feel, and
about to say the same thing. It's like social commentary with cross with the first Saw.
Yes.
So
of being trapped and what does that do to you. So I will watch that, but I'll watch it when the idea of, again, just reading at 11:30. We're very much, we said millennials 2 seconds ago, and now we're complaining about late night reading. Our age is very confusing right now.
It's really difficult to read through closed eyelids. So
he would have had even less of a clue what was going on. So yeah, once he's fallen asleep during one film, I'm not going to risk another. So we did not catch 4x4. Well, that was our first 2 days. That was Thursday and Friday, the opening days of Grimmfest. We're going to cut it off there. I think it'd be ambitious for like the second episode to assume you'd listen to 3 hours of us rambling. So we're going to cut it off there and come back with Saturday and Sundays in a separate episode. So I hope you enjoyed our kind of intro to Grimmfest and things like that. If you are enjoying the podcast, please subscribe, please rate, please review, please do all those lovely free things that you can do that just get our name out there. If you'd like any more content, visit bombshellsandblueshells.com, which is the kind of sister website to this podcast, where you'll see lists and reviews and thought pieces and things like that. Apart from that, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Bombshells and Blueshells, and on Twitter at Blueshells. Where can they find you, sweetheart?
On Twitter and Instagram at 32bit5s, I think, / maybe at 32bitj5s. One of the two of those things may get you in
by episode 5. We will have nailed this.
Yes, I forget.
Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you tune in for our next episode looking at the Saturday and Sunday of Grimmfest. Bye, guys.